So if you hired somebody to replace the roof on your house, do a remodel on your house, or even put new kitchen cabinets in, should you have a written contract? The simple answer is yes. It better protects you, and it better protects the contractor at the end of the day. Don't let the contractor start any work without putting that contract in writing. You may have an oral contract, but again, you need to make sure that contract is in writing so you both understand what your rights and your responsibilities are under that contract. Don't let them start until you have the contract in writing. So you've hired this contractor, he's come in, he's started to do the work. You start noticing that he's not showing up, or maybe that the work doesn't seem to, that it's looking right. What should you do? Well, the first thing you should do is you should probably talk to your contractor. Try and work it out to make sure you can get this thing back on schedule. Make sure that he addresses your concerns. If at that point you feel that the contractor isn't living up to what his obligations are, you always have the right to fire the contractor. Should you call the ROC? Well, let's start by telling you what the ROC is. The ROC is the Register of Contractors. It's the Arizona governmental body that governs and regulates contractors and has certain workmanship standards that they're supposed to perform. So if you believe your contractor isn't living up to those workmanship standards, calling the Register of Contractors could help you get that contractor back on track. What if my contractor doesn't have an ROC license? Well, that means that the contractor is not regulated and by the ROC hasn't passed the necessary tests to become a licensed contractor. It would be the same as hiring somebody who says they're a lawyer who's not licensed as a lawyer. If you happen to come into contact with a contractor who's not licensed, you should cancel any work with that contractor and notify the Register of Contractors that this person's contracting without a license. You pay your contractor up front at the beginning of the project, and 2 weeks into it, your contractor disappears. What do? Well, at this point, you probably realize that your contractor is not going to finish the job and he's taken off with your money. So, 1, contact the Register of Contractors, you can file a complaint, and 2, consult with a construction lawyer to discuss what rights you have to pursue that contractor for the incomplete work and the cost it may be to complete his work. So there's an issue with your project and you ask your contractor about it. And he says, it's not my fault, it's the sub that did it wrong. What's that mean? Well, at the end of the day, the buck stops with the contractor. You hired him. Whether or not his sub does something right or something wrong, it falls back on his responsibility. It's his responsibility to correct. When do I need a permit for my job? And who's responsible for getting the permit? Well, starters, permits typically are required when you're doing anything changing foundation or anything structural to the home. If you're merely having new cabinets put in, you probably don't need a permit. As for who's responsible for getting the permit, that depends on the contract language itself. Your contractor started the project, and a few days later, again, to mail a document entitled 20-day preliminary lien notice. What is this? Does this mean the contractor's placed a lien on my property? No. What a 20-day preliminary lien notice is it gives the contractor the ability to record a mechanics lien should it be needed later on. What's a mechanics lien? Well, that's a question for another day. Contractor's done the job, but maybe he didn't do it satisfactory, maybe it's below workmanship standards, and maybe there's some additional cost you now have to repair that work. Can you file a claim on your homeowner's insurance policy? Typically, no. Most homeowner insurance policies include exclusions for damage caused by other people. Ideally, and the person responsible is that contractor. He has certain warranties that he is responsible to uphold that are imposed on him by law. So you have to hire a lawyer because your contractor did a poor job. You've incurred additional monies repairing his work. Now you have this legal bill. Well, how are you going to pay this legal bill? Well, under Arizona law, if a matter arises out of contract, the prevailing party is entitled to recover their reasonable attorney's fees. What's that mean? That means if you go all the way through to judgment, as part of the judgment, your attorney is going to ask the court to award you your fees that you incurred in collecting the monies you're owed from that contractor.